They talk about the trappings of success. You know, I read this book one time, a self-help thing, and they were saying, talking about the people that put their ladder to climb the ladder of success, only to find at the top rung they have placed the ladder against the wrong wall. You know, and I always thought that was really funny, because the trappings of almost success are way worse than that, because you don't even have any of the cushion of success to fall back.
Sure. Today on the Ramona, we're back. Another episode of the Ramona Pressure Podcast, Bill. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, last week's episode, we started the Musicians on the Fly series. Mm-hmm. It's been good. This week, we have another awesome musician, a local guy from Grand Rapids.
Yep.
Mr. Drew Nelson. And as most people know, I'm a pretty big story song fan. Like, I like Robert Earl Keen and, you know, those kind of things. What did you think of, like we were talking before about the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Yeah, it was a good song. Or like, who was
Gordon
the singer?
Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot.
And he's still alive.
I know.
He's still alive. You got Gordon Lightfoot. That song is so awesome. And then also John Prine. He just did a video. He released, I think it's a 5-song album called Sea of Forgetfulness. And Gordon Lightfoot's there in the live recording on the video.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Do you know John Prine?
I do not.
Oh, dude, John Prine's good, but you're probably going to hate him. You see, that's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of these artists. Like Willie
that's
Nelson.
the problem with you.
That's the problem. That's a problem. That's a problem with you guys. Let me tell you something. You don't know what's good. No, but seriously, like John Prine, Willie Nelson, Robert Earl Keen, like some of these guys, their voices are, when you first hear them, it's like scotch, you know? At first you drink it and you're like, what is that stuff? You know, it's like peeling the paint off the walls. And then you're like, the more you drink it, the more you like acquire it. And then you're like, man, that is some dang good scotch.
Yeah. If it is good scotch.
If it is good scotch.
Yeah.
After a while, you can decipher what's really good and what's not.
An acquired taste. Just like craft beer, just like beer. I mean, like, I remember my first beer, you know, when I was like a kid, my dad gave me a sip and I was like, oh, I never want to drink this. DUI later.
Yeah. Exactly. But, you know, Drew Nelson's here this week. He's the story song guy. But before we get started, what's the craziest Google search? Do you like have any terms in your Google account like alerts?
Geez. Oh,
like
geez.
alerts? Like the tame ones, Bill. Are there any Google alerts that you have like when something like if Bill Giesman comes up, right?
Uh-huh.
Does it alert you that your name was
No, I don't even know how to do that.
Oh, you don't?
No.
All kinds of.
Do you set Google alerts?
I do
Alerts.
set. There's a few that I have, you know, fly fishing podcasts, you know, things like that, because I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, but one that everyone should take a look at is meth.
I'm a firm believer that everybody should try it at least once in their lifetime.
No. But the story is people do stupid stuff on it. And actually, USA Today reported a story. Well, not today, but it was actually back in September, but I just found it today. That man accused of sexually assaulting a dying beaver with meth possession.
Wait, the beaver was dying?
It was dying. So a man was arrested late Monday on an animal cruelty charge after he allegedly sexually assaulted a beaver in a park, local media reported. The incident occurred at Columbia Park in Kennewick, Washington, after a woman saw someone hit a beaver with a car. The woman then went home to find a box to bring the injured beaver to a veterinarian. When she returned, the woman found a man next to the animal. She initially wondered whether he was comforting the beaver. Sergeant Aaron Clem said, according to the newspaper. The man, however, was on top of the beaver with his pants unzipped. When officers arrived, the beaver was dead. Tri-City Herald reported. Last night, this is in quotes, last night, officers responded to Columbia Park for a report of a transient male having sexual contact with a wild animal. Richard Delp, 35, was arrested on animal cruelty charge and possession of methamphetamines, police said on Facebook. You can't make that up. Meth, well, don't do meth, kids.
That's a good lesson for you right there.
I mean, at what point do you think, like...
There are so many jokes we could make off this.
I mean, I know, and you know what? A couple weeks ago, we had the whole Blow It Up episode, And I'm like, this podcast is going downhill fast. But oh my gosh, it's so tempting to just go on a tirade of jokes right now. And I'm trying to keep it somewhat clean.
We need another podcast where we just do these kind of talks.
I just want to talk about this. And I just want to laugh. And I just want to make lots of jokes, but I can't. I want to keep it classy.
Stay off the drugs, kids. That's it, moral of the story.
Don't
let
do
that
drugs.
beaver lie.
Let the beaver alone. Okay? My God, I just want to make jokes. And I can't. Anyways, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, let's get back to that. What we're really here for, the fly fishing podcast. We're with Drew Nelson, a local artist, makes amazing music. He's just a great human being, and he has used fly fishing in a lot of awesome ways, just in forms of healing himself and emotionally, just an awesome guy. And we're so happy that he's here. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire.
We're recording.
We're recording now?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I take a picture, Drew?
No.
Let's see if I can figure out how to work this phone without my glasses. A couple of summers back, I was on the Flat River and I went to put on a fly at dusk, and I could not see the hole to put the string. And then I had to start wearing reading glasses, and now it's
So you know where you go from there?
I don't know.
To the optometrist. Because that happened to me a few years ago. And I went into the optometrist and said, my arm is not long enough for my phone anymore. And he said, let's check you out. And the last time I got my eyes checked out was probably when I went into the service.
Oh, really?
So he looked at me halfway through and he said, you can't see good close up. I said, I know, that's why I'm here. He goes, you can't see good far away either.
You're going to charge me for this?
I said, I just thought I'd like to drive at night. He said, you don't. So I ended up leaving with like the trifocal things.
Trifocals.
Yeah, and it's changed my life. I highly recommend.
Wow.
I can see, like, it was amazing.
Wow, that's great. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Drew Nelson. Drew, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Hey, man, thanks for coming over.
I mean, we've probably already talked an hour since we've met up because we have a lot in common. So it's really great to hang out with you. But we're here in Ada, Michigan. Are you from this area then?
I grew up Kent City, Sparta, kind of, so maybe north of Grand Rapids, about 30 minutes or so not too far from here.
Okay. And how did you get into fly fishing then? Were you always a fly angler growing up, or?
Well, my dad is strictly catch and fillet. Who swears I'll take him to every fly show and he'll walk up to every fly tire and go, as soon as you fellers come up with a good worm pattern, I'm in, He's that guy.
That's like a good dad joke.
Yeah, right. It's totally, and they all just, oh God, So we grew up fishing for panfish and walleye and jigging for walleye and stuff like that. And then when I was making my first record, my producer, Michael Crittenden from Troll for Trout, was a huge fly fisherman. And I bugged him. I'm like, I gotta go. I haven't been fishing for a long, since I was a teenager or something. And he took me to the PM, and that was it. I was done. And that was, 20 years ago or something. So
Now, you're pretty good friends with Kaz. You guys have been friends for a long time.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's the one that he told me, hey, you should interview Drew, and introduced us. I think he just introduced us.
No, I sent you a Facebook message that said, Kaz said we should be friends, so I guess we are.
And I always
and
accept.
You said, oh, okay. What's going on?
I always accept friend requests from strangers. That's what I do. Not really, but I knew you from Kaz, and I've checked out your music and saw you play last year at the TFO event. I wasn't there, but I saw a lot of pictures. We weren't able to make it up there, but so you and Kaz, I mean, you guys were both, went through some recovery and you've been through a lot together.
He's got some years on me, and so that was really good. Years on me as far as we're the same age, but he had more years in recovery. And so when I finally got sober and was figuring out my path, he was a great resource for me to just kind of so I lost some friends, and you got to kind of change the people you hang out with a little bit, because you just can't. It's not that you don't like them anymore. You still like your friends, but you just can't hang out if they're drinking, or it's just hard at the beginning. So it was good. He was really good. He helped me navigate some stuff, and I had burnt some bridges and things like that. So it was really nice to have one person that was like, didn't hate you. Well, I mean, maybe it just feels like that. You know what I mean? Because you're just full of, they teach us. I learned that I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex,
It's a bad combination.
Yeah, and add alcohol to the mix or whatever. So your perceptions are just goofy. So it's just to have that person that's you got a few years not going down the road in recovery that you can kind of ask questions to and lean on, and you can make mistakes and they don't, just write you off. And yeah, he's been a great friend. He's a good guy.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, you guys, he was a bartender here in Grand Rapids, West Michigan, and you would play the bars, right?
I think he fired me once. I think I remember, not on purpose. I think he was. I'm pretty sure, I was just doing my Sunday. I used to play at this place every Sunday, and the owners canceled it, but they never bothered to tell me. So I showed up with all my PA and all that stuff. And poor Kaz was the guy going, "Oh, I don't think you're playing today." And so I just bellied up at the bar and hung out with him for the rest of the day, which is what else you can do on a Sunday, I guess, in the winter.
Right, sure. Now, in that whole recovery process, I mean, Kaz put on, he just was done, and he went and started fly fishing and guiding and went all into the fly fishing thing.
See, did he not fish before? I can't remember.
I think he did.
A little bit? Okay.
Yeah. But did fly fishing help you in recovery? Is that something, tying flies, the community, is that something that really helped you out? Or
Mine was a little different because alcohol had been wrapped up in a lot of my identity. And, a lot of times when I was fishing with a certain group of friends, and alcohol was always a big part of that. And so it was weird for me at first to even picture myself going to a stream without having a 2-hearted ale or something. I had this weird romantic idea that doesn't exist, right? I mean, it's
right.
But was in my head. So mine was a little bit different. It took me a little while before I kind of felt comfortable in my own skin. Because there's just a lot of stuff that I wasn't used to doing without having alcohol involved.
And you grew up, in a pretty similar home as I did, pretty religious home. And, do you think, am I over spiritualizing it or whatever? Was it just, you think you were just kind of trying to figure things out? Is that what drove you to drink and to do those things? Or what do you think it was internally? Or
well, there's heredity,
okay,
right? So I've got a lot of people, like my dad's dad was an alcoholic. Yeah, so it's kind of a family thing. There's more people, but I don't want to go outing people.
Yeah.
That definitely, if they're not alcoholic, they definitely struggle with the amount that they drink. I remember all the family gatherings and Christmas time, everybody playing euchre and just knocking them back. And so it was always just kind of part of what was going on, even though my parents did become religious and didn't partake at that point. All my aunts and uncles and all that kind of stuff, so I was around it. But so I think hereditary, the heredity comes into it. I have ADHD, and I wasn't diagnosed till I was in my 40s, which is kind of interesting. When I was a kid, my teacher wanted me to get tested, and my parents kind of just said, "We don't really believe in that. He's just a boy, blah, 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 blah." So I spent a lot of my life dealing with this disorder that I didn't even know that I had. And so if you start looking at adults with ADHD and behaviors that they use to compensate for some of that, alcohol is right up in there in that whole thing. So I think that's part of it. And when you grow up in a house where everything's wrong and you get a little bit of freedom, you go ape. And sometimes you don't stop. Most people reach a point where they go, they test those limits and those bounds, and then they go, okay, I'm stopping now. And then there's the other ones of us that say, I'm not stopping now. I'm gonna keep going, Last man standing.
Yeah.
I used to have a T-shirt that said "Rehab is for quitters," and I was all cool and proud and stupid about it, but it's kind of where my head was.
Now, you're a musician and you're part of this Musicians on the Fly series that we're doing. And my question to you is, being ADHD, struggling with alcoholism, I'm sure there was a lot of mental ups and downs, like extreme highs, extreme lows. Was it good for writing, experiencing those feelings? And were you a good songwriter? Did that help your songwriting, you think?
I think, there's I can't remember who it was. They were asking, was it Guy Clark or somebody? They asked, like, how come you don't have any happy songs? And he said, because when I'm happy, I'm golfing.
Right.
When I'm happy, I'm fishing. You know what I mean? When I'm happy, So I think, definitely going through, like, emotional things in your life definitely kind of help you with that writing thing, especially at the beginning. I think as you mature as a writer, you realize that you learn to have faith in yourself as a writer, and you learn to have faith in the form, right? It's a muscle, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. So I'm pretty confident as a writer now, even though I don't feel like that thing, like I can't write without drinking, or that idea of I can't be a great blues musician without doing heroin, or that's just
sure.
So as a young writer, for sure, you kind of dip into that emotion, and it's real cathartic. I think when I got to the point of my last album, Tilt-A-Whirl, I started writing more from a character standpoint, and then putting myself in these people's shoes and saying, how would they say that, and kind of got myself out of it. So basically, when I do these songwriting workshops, and we'll do Songwriting 101, and basically Songwriting 101 is you have such a special, unique voice, and the world needs to hear from you, and you're the only you that's here, and we need that. And Songwriting 102 is nobody cares about you. Right? So at first, as a young writer, we need permission to do it, to write.
Right.
As we grow in our craft, we have to realize that it's not all about our catharsis. It's not all about airing our feelings. People are interested in either escaping from what their everyday life is, or they want to put themselves in the song and say, "Oh, I wish I would have said it that way." Or, my favorite poems are the ones that I go, "God, I wish I'd have wrote that." I that's exactly how I feel. That's a long way to say yes, I guess.
Now that you're kind of on the other end of things and you're in a different stage in life, are you still writing a lot? I know it's a practice, something that, like you said, that you do. It's an exercise that you do. It's not something that is all based on emotion. Where you are now in life, we're here in your wood studio where you make cool wooden stuff, furniture and everything. And it's an art. It's beautiful. It smells great. It's amazing. It's a very inspirational place.
And no one can download a table.
No, yeah. Did that bother you? The downloads?
It's frustrating. Because it costs a lot of money to make a good record.
Yeah.
And then when you see people they can just get it for nothing. And then there's this whole, and I must be just old too. Like, I don't understand how anybody could spend, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 by the time everything's mastered and done and printed, and then give it away. Like, it's hard. I know that there's a lot of musicians that give the records for free and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know how they do it, because I was just always scraping by, like, how am I going to pay my cell phone bill? Do I have enough gas to get to the next gig? Do I have, and so I remember specifically selling CDs after a gig one time, and having a lady picking one up at the CD table and looking at it and saying how much she enjoyed the concert. And I asked her if she'd like to buy the CD, and she said, "No, I'll just have my kid get it from the internet." And she set it down and walked off. That's tough. In fact, when I signed with Red House, the president of Red House, Eric Poltanelmi, said to me, "If this record came out 10 years ago, you'd be a star, but it's coming out now, and we're going to see if we can make you a living." It's just how much it had changed. So
now, was that during the LimeWire days, like late 90s, early 2000s, when did that album come out?
No, that was my last record, so that came out 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
That's been 5
And
years.
that's when he said that to you 5 years ago.
That been 6 years ago, because we signed, the record was done, we signed, and then they had a bunch of stuff in the queue, and they couldn't get it out. They couldn't release it for a year.
Okay.
which was fine with me. I was on Red House. I mean, that's Greg
Right.
Brown's label. I mean, that's
Right.
Greg Brown and Jimmy LaFave was on that label for a long time, and oh my gosh, Carrie Elkin and Meg Hutchinson, and just such a phenomenal group of people to be part of. The Waylon Jennys, like holy cow.
Right.
I was on, whoa.
So let's take a step back. Like, how did you get into music? How did you get to Red House? What was that journey like? And can you it doesn't have to be your whole life story, but what was that journey like for you?
Well, I just been writing songs since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. My brother had a guitar, and he'd play with it once in a while, and then I would just, whenever he was gone, I'd just grab it, and I just wanted to, he's 5 years older than I was. And then we shared a room, and one day I just moved it to my side of the room, and he didn't seem that bothered by it. And that was that, and I just found this little special place that I could go, and I was always horrible at lessons, and it's got, now looking back, I know why.
ADHD,
Right.
yeah.
So the lady would want me to play Mary Had a Little Lamb looking at notes, and I could pick out a, Toto song on the piano by listening to it, so
Right.
It was hard to, do that. So I just always grew up writing songs and wanting to find that voice. And then somewhere along the line, somebody gave me a Dylan record, and that just changed everything.
Which record was it? Do you remember?
It's probably just like Dylan's Greatest Hits or something. I mean,
Yeah,
it
sure.
wasn't Blonde on Blonde or anything. It was probably just like this standard, but as a 15-year-old kid from a little farm town, like what is this all about?
Yeah.
And then the stories always got me. Even in history class in school, like the stories, I didn't care about dates but the stories always were fascinating to me, people's stories. And then basically you figure out no one's going to sit around a tree listening to poems, so you better learn to sing, right?
Right.
So from there, it was, I went in the service, I was in the Navy, and had a guitar with me the whole time and played for the guys, like after, in the berthing, after work and stuff, and do covers and sing all that stuff. And I don't know, just was something like, just always wanted to do it. And then when I got serious about it, I was doing a bunch of cover shows where, you're doing 4 hours a night at some deck on a bar and singing
Sure.
Jimmy Buffett or whatever. And I had all these songs in my heart. Like, I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I decided that I was going to just play places where most of the seats faced the stage. That was my goal. Most of them. Didn't have to be all
Not
of them.
all of
Just
them,
most
just
of them
most.
had to face the stage. And it took me about 2 years after I quit doing the cover gigs to make the money up. But I just started doing it, and I started really hustling and really working hard. And I had a list of goals, and on my goals, even 10 years before it happened, was Red House Records was on the goal. So that was always part of the thing.
Did they find you, or did you send a demo into them? How
I
did
had
you-
met Eric, the former president, and Ellen, who was the publicity person at different events, like Folk Alliance conventions or different events around, and we had known each other, and Eric had been kind of following my music. And when we started recording that last record, I just emailed him and said, "Hey, can I send you some tracks?" And he's like, "Sure, I'd love to hear them." And that was that. They took the record. We made it here in Grand Rapids. Michael Crittenden produced it.
Was it at Station C?
No, it was before Station C had closed. This was at Crittenden's studio, Harvest Music.
Okay, yeah, because Station C closed, in 2004?
But I used to live on top of Station C. But I did. AJ was my roommate up there. And then Guy Bazzani bought that building, and AJ and I squatted up there for almost a year.
Do you know Elvin?
I do know Elvin. He was in there too.
He
He
was
was.
my roommate before that.
That's from before he lived up there
You
too.
recorded his first album?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, Elvin for sure. Those
That's
were the
Wild Bill in
days.
the background. I told him to talk, please.
He's a talker.
He is.
He's been talking this whole time.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool.
So then when we sent the record to them, they didn't change anything.
they just
They said, "That's it, bang, stamp it," and then they sent it to out to Air Show to get mastered, and that was that. So that was pretty neat for studio here in Grand Rapids to have a major label, just not a major Americana label. So it's not like Universal or something, but in my world it was major.
heck yeah.
To just say that we love it just the way it is, and we're just gonna put our stamp on it and send you out there.
And then what happened? You were on tour after that, trying to
I
tour the
toured.
album?
I toured all over the place. I've been touring the whole time. You know, I have
Uh-huh.
4 other albums
Okay.
that
Yep.
were self-produced or released, and I'd been touring in the UK and the Netherlands, and as much as I can in the States. Was doing the Kerrville stuff and Texas stuff, and just hammering it, as much as you possibly can. And then I started getting sick. I have a disease called echolalia, and just got real sick so it was like really weird. It was like the best year of my career and the worst year of my personal life at the same time, which is pretty tough. And then just had to, just had spent just thousands and thousands of dollars trying to figure out what was going on with my health.
And you probably, I'm assuming, didn't have great health insurance at the time being a musician, or?
Yeah, I had like the basic, $3,000 deductible or something like
Right.
that, just so I would hit. So people ask me like, "Where's your Harley?" And I always say it's in a doctor's parking lot in their garage over there by the hospital, So I just got sick, and it was just like, just the finances were I was just hammering the road, driving 34,000 miles a year, and just barely scratching by, and it was just really hard, and I just kind of hit a wall. And that's at the point where I started getting into rehab and stuff. I had to have some surgery for the disease that I've got, and got sober, and met a really wonderful gal, and we had a baby, and then that was it. I didn't want to be gone all the time, for no money. It's different if you go on business trips, but you know that you're making X a year, and
Sure.
but if you're just scraping by the whole time and you got a little baby at home, that's tough.
Now, you had mentioned something before the interview about how making it's great, not even coming close to making it's bad, but almost making it is way worse.
Yeah, I was making fun of that that Stephen Covey thing that they talk about the trappings of success. I read this book one time, the self-help thing, and they were talking about the people that put their ladder to climb the ladder of success only to find at the top rung they have placed the ladder against the wrong wall. And I always thought that was really funny. Because the trappings of almost success are way worse than that, because you don't even have any of the cushion of success to fall back on.
Sure. Like what do you mean by that, though?
I mean, like, I was a good enough musician and I was making good enough records that no one was telling me to quit, but I wasn't ever good enough to get over the hump. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're always almost there, but not quite there. There's always that ring that's, that's out there a little bit further, and you keep trying to bang away at it, and it's just not materializing. And then you start to get older, and I started doing the house concert circuit, and then you start realizing, like, I am the youngest person at all these concerts. And how is this going to sustain itself? And it's just a weird mindset to get in, and then you're gone all the time. So it's a really easy place if you have a disposition like mine, where people want to take you out after the show, or people want to pour you a drink after the show, or it's just really easy to slip into that lifestyle of just, holy cow, I've been drunk every night for the last month, but I'm a musician, so nobody cares if I don't get up till 11.
Right. It's kind of expected.
Right.
Yeah.
But in real life, it's not,
Sure.
So it just got kind of all blurry for me. So, but I think I'll tour again. I think I'll probably do another record at some point when my kids get a little older.
Sure.
They've been phenomenal. And then so this is the crazy thing how life works is that this old cabinet maker who built that guitar, Robert Sayers, I'd known him since I was 3, and he started teaching me how to build guitars. And so when I was home, I would build these instruments. So this is how the woodworking came about. I built like 15 acoustics, and from there it just got into furniture, and I got into doing an internship at a custom design shop, and so you asked me about writing. I haven't been writing songs. I've been writing some short stories and some stuff, and I'm writing an article for a magazine now about a piece that I'm building. But when I start designing and building a really beautiful piece of furniture, I get that same feeling that I used to get when I was writing. So I mean, it was really cool how life just kind of provided something for me even though I wasn't doing the music thing, you know. And it's good too because you get your identity just. I don't think it's unique to me. I think it's something that most guys struggle with, but it seems like our vocation defines us to a certain extent. You know, like that whole thing, like, I can't believe I could go fishing without having a beer. You know, I don't believe I'm me if I don't do my job. It's the thing that sets me apart or makes me special or blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not true. But it's a hard one to get over. So when when you realize that you've put all your eggs in this musical basket and it's not coming true the way you thought it was going to come true, and it was a real. I think you got to go through that and almost let that die to come back and actually just be a musician. If that makes any sense, like just play music because you like it again, not because it's your job.
Right.
That's why I'll never become a fishing guide.
That's why I'll never become a fishing guide.
You know what I mean? Because I took one thing I loved and made it a job. I ain't doing that with it. And I was having this conversation with Travis Stewart, who's a fantastic musician. He used to tour with Amy Helm, and he's so funny. He's from like North Carolina or something. And he said, "Well, heck, didn't your daddy ever tell you to take your second most favorite thing and make that your job?" I'm like, "Oh my God, you're brilliant."
Yes.
The words of wisdom.
I don't think I could be a fishing guides are the hardest working people in the industry.
Oh, it's just like being a folk singer all over again. You're gone all the time. You have to deal with crabby people from out of town, and you don't make any money.
Right.
Like, why would I sign up for that? And you don't get to fish.
But you get to watch everyone else fish.
You get to row a boat and make lunch. God bless you guys. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much, guys. That's a tough job. Where do you see the future of music? I mean, I know we get downloads with Apple Music. We also have Spotify and a lot of streaming channels. And we just won a case actually to increase our revenue for getting paid, because it was like since our compensation was based on the same rate as player pianos back in like 1900 or something. And we just got a raise, which was cool that Congress put that through. But what do you see the future of music? Do you think it'll ever be a sustainable business like it was 50 years ago?
I have no idea. I don't know. They got other guys that are figuring that stuff out. I think that I just still want to write really good songs, and I still want to make things that matter and things that are useful, and I'll let other people figure out downloads, and I don't know. And there's Greg Brown's got this great song called "It's Your Town Now," and it's just I think I used to go out late at night and chase for chase and shot for shot, and I'm all done with that somehow, and it's your town now. I kind of feel that way. I feel like there's a lot of young people with a whole lot of energy that are way better than I ever was, that are going to come along, and hopefully they're listening to Pete Seeger and to Woody Guthrie and some people that matter, and because music can make a change.
Sure,
music can really make a change, and we need to change. So,
I think too, and this is my whole theory, is like with your woodworking business, it's a creative field. And like you said, you get the same fulfillment out of that you did when you were writing a song. But that's made by Drew Nelson, right? That, I'm looking at some awesome wood in your office or your shop here that's made by you. This cannot be replaced by AI.
Not yet.
Not
till they can plastic with it, that print it, 3D print it, and make it real woody.
Yeah, exactly. And music, songwriting, although I heard of some people using algorithms to create chord structure and lyrics and stuff, but for the most part, it can't be reproduced by AI. I was always told, don't go in the creative fields. You need to do something else. But it seems like the future, like you were talking about, our identity is wrapped up. Especially as men. I was always told you're the provider of your home. This is your identity. I grew up in a very classic, kind of weird classic way. And if you take a look at like the suicide rates among men in their 40s and 50s, those are the guys committing suicide. They don't know what they're doing with their life. They've lost their job.
Everything's changing
Yeah.
so fast.
Some of their jobs have been replaced by AI, and
Sure.
now they're like, I can't cope with this, But in the creative field, it seems like, of course, it's easy to become your identity because it's actually a piece of who you are that you're putting out there. But it's not something that I don't think will easily be replaced by AI or by some other. Yeah, sure, they can make, cabinets on a line somewhere. They don't have to come to Drew Nelson to get a coffee table. But if you get a Drew Nelson piece, it's original. You put your hands on it and you loved it. Am I right? Or what do you think about that?
From the furniture aspect or from the AI?
Just the creative.
I mean,
just the creative aspect.
I'm still at the point where people want me as a furniture builder to compete with Pier 1. And I can't. So you just have to know your audience and you just have or know your customer base. And I just tell people, like, if you want a Pier 1 table, go buy it from Pier 1 because I can't make it for the price that an Indonesian child can out of rubber wood and have it shipped over here in a container. But if you want something that you can give to your grandchildren, I'm your guy. And it's going to be priced accordingly. And it's the, Brian Gallup, who the guitar builder up in Big Rapids, he has a school. I remember Robert telling me a story one time. He saw a guitar hanging on Brian's wall, and it was for $10,000. Robert says, well, what happens if nobody pays $10,000 for that? Mr. Gallup said, well, it's going to hang right there on my wall. And he knows his worth, And I think as a musician, that's a hard deal.
It is,
right?
yeah.
Because it's just butts in the seats is what matters, right? It's like that old James McMurtry. I started out trying to write really good songs and ended up a beer salesman. So it's butts in the seats. It's, there's so many variables to that whole thing. So I would just be content to be proficient as a writer and be respected in my community at this point. I don't mind if I'm the old dude sitting outside of the coffee shop in Lowell, hammering away old-timey tunes on the banjo. That's fine. That's fine. I don't have to have that big. It's funny, we talked about John Wimber earlier. And he was a Christian kind of leader when you and I were growing up. But he always used to say, don't trust anybody that doesn't walk with a limp. And I think there's something to that too. I think that, the best ones, man. I mean, I just was reading Ray Wiley Hubbard's autobiography the other day, and I mean, he's one of the finest writers, in my opinion, out there. And that fella definitely walks with a limp. And I think that one of the shameful things about our music industry is that we revere youth so much. And a lot of the great lyrics and a lot of the great writing and a lot of the great stuff is being created by people that have some miles under their belt. I have a really hard. I always joke with my wife. She does a lot of yoga, and I do yoga too. And I joke that I just have one rule: that if you are a 19-year-old girl from East Grand Rapids, you do not get to spout ancient Hindu philosophy at me while I'm trying not to fall over. Right? It's an old crotchety, curmudgeon-y thing.
You don't know.
But you haven't even had your heart broke yet. You come on.
Yes.
You haven't even, it's like the newest 15-year-old singing about he left me. Well, no, he didn't. I can't go there.
Yeah.
But you got Ray Wiley, and he comes up with a line like, we hit it off like a metaphor.
So
and you
good.
look at him and just go, oh.
Why couldn't I write that
That's the line.
That's
You know what I mean? Right.
Yes.
I remember seeing Mary Oliver read poems at the Y in New York City a few years ago. It was one of the greatest things in my life, being able to listen to her read poems. But she had miles on her.
Right.
She knew love and loss and success and failure and what it was. You know what I mean? That's the good stuff. The good stuff is in the in-between, to me anyway. That's where life is. Life isn't in the black or the white. It's in all the gray.
Do you feel like sometimes you live in that constant gray area?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I want to be.
sucks,
I
but-
want to either go. You know what I mean? There's parts of me that
Yes.
wants to go left or right, or
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
part of
yeah,
me
yeah.
that wants to go to know
Right.
the answers. But the thing is when I get around people that say they know all the answers, I get real nervous.
Yeah. I find out really
You
quick
know what I
they
mean?
don't.
No, because nobody does. You know, I mean that's the kicker.
But I want to know.
Well, sure you do.
And I think
Right.
that's part of music, you know, like writing and a good lyricist saying, I don't know the answers, but let's go on this journey together versus like, I have all the answers or, but you've come out.
That's why Christian music's so horrible.
What's the same?
Well, it's because they have to wrap up their theology in 3 minutes and 25 seconds, and it's impossible.
Right.
It's impossible. It doesn't make any sense. Right? I mean, I don't mean that it's horrible in the proficiency of people playing their instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean it's horrible in the writing. I think the setup is horrible. I think the position that community has put their musicians in is horrible. You know? Dear God, give us a Rich Mullins again, at least. Somebody that was really great and that questioned.
No,
And that
he
didn't
would
have-
never exist on radio, Christian radio.
Well, Dylan wouldn't exist on our radio anymore.
No.
So,
No.
right?
No, I mean.
I was just
God.
listening to old Rich Mullins records the other day, and I was just floored by The Color Green, that song. It just
Some
floored
of
me.
his stuff, like, I can't believe I'm talking about Rich Mullins, but some of his stuff was like, this dude gets me when you listen to it.
Because he was a real person.
Because you can't wrap up God in all of your theology in a 3-minute song.
No.
Like God, everything we deal with in life, the pain, the heartache, the joy, like it's more than a 3-minute song.
You know, one of the joys that I've had since being home and not playing so much, I have bees back there. We're doing honeybees, and I kind of got into it accidentally, but somebody asked me, why do you have bees? And I said, well, I can't fix a glacier. Right? You know, like
Right, right.
but I can do this, you know?
Right.
And I think that's going back to the music thing, like somebody like Rich, I mean, you know, you'd say, well, what about this song? And he'd say, well, because I don't know. And he was always exploring. You know, Bruce Coburn's another person that's always exploring. I remember hanging out with Bruce, not one-on-one. See, I always do that. It was in a Calvin had the first festival of faith and writing, and Bruce was there.
Wow.
And Mr. Hefner got me in to hang out a little bit, right? So I had a little one-on-one time. But I remember somebody asking him, Bruce Coburn, about these theologians following, saying he's this great, blah, 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 blah. And Bruce just said, well, I feel like these albums and songs are kind of just footprints on my journey, and if you want to study the footprints, that kind of makes you an anthropologist, but I'm more interested in going on the journey.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, there are people way above my pay grade.
Yes. Yes. And actually they probably don't end up getting paid. They get ostracized by people.
Because they're neither here nor there, right? So
Right.
that's the tough part. You can't put them in your camp. And that's hard. People don't like people that you can't put in your camp. You got to be us or theirs or.
That's a conversation that could go on all night with that. Politically these days with all that's going on. I mean, that's that gray area where you live. And I think that's part of being a writer is those deep moments that you don't see things black and white. You're not here nor there. And it can be kind of a miserable place to hang out, because you're for so much, so badly you want to believe in the A, B, and C, but this doesn't make sense to me. And then you question, and then you're
Right.
and that's typical of any left or right politically or whatever. Wherever you are, you ask these questions, you're put out. Or religions, this is how it is. This is the absolute. And yes, I want absolute. I would love absolution if that made sense. But unfortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't always line up.
Yeah, and that's why God made a river,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Or whoever made it, because I don't know.
Yeah.
But Greg Brown said that brook trout were God's way of saying that creation was a good idea. Right? I mean,
So good.
I know that guy. He kills me. But that's why I go back to the river, because there's at least, and it's such a Zen thing, right? Because this is not about the fish.
Right.
Like I watch these young guys on Instagram. It's so funny. And it's all about the fish, right? It's the biggest fish. It's the newest fish. It's the greatest fish picture. And I remember being like I remember fishing with an older guy when I was first started out, and he was like helping me do something. And I said something like, well, don't you want to fish? And he's like, I've caught all my fish.
Yeah.
I've caught a lot of them, and I'm all right, you know. And I was like, oh, I couldn't believe, what is he talking about? And now I just watch the Instagram, you know, feed go by. And I don't know, man. It's not about that, right? It's about being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
For me, anyway.
Presence.
Right, and that's the meditation thing. It's about being just there now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can bring, I mean, just to watch the whole thing, you know, to see a trout rise, especially dry flies, you know, like to see a trout rise, to fish to that trout, to make a good cast, to watch it rise, even if it's a refusal, but to watch the whole thing happen and just to be there, to be in that moment. And at that moment, nothing else matters but that fish. That interaction between you and that other sentient being, that interaction. And then if I can try to bring that home to my kids, I'm a better dad.
Yeah.
If I can bring that home to my woodworking, I'm a better woodworker. If I can bring that home to my marriage, I'm a better husband. If I can learn to be present, you know, that's why I keep going back to the river, is to learn to try to be a human being and to try to be present, you know. We have that little stream across the street, and we get a heck of a you got to come over in the spring, man, because we get a heck of a steelhead run, and it's closed. You can't fish them, but I bring my little boy, and we sit on a big rock over there to watch these steelhead spawn, and you know, it's just a tiny little stream, and their dorsal fins are all out of the water, and they're going up the rocks, and
Sure.
we just giggle, right? I mean, I would bring him over there. He didn't even know what a steelhead was, but we would just watch these, you know, this whole life is starting, you know, and we just laugh, and we sit over there till we get cold and come in and have cocoa, and you know, those are the kind of things that I don't want to catch one. Even if it was open, like there's nothing in me that wants to harass those fish in that moment. You know what I mean? Like I just love watching them do what they do, and love being by that moving water, and love being, you know, even if you get in next to them. I like getting in next to them, and I got these like Wellington boots, you know, because it's not very deep, and they'll scatter, and then they'll, you know, if you stand there for more than a minute, you look down and, you know, you're breaking the water, and there's a big steely behind your ankles, you know.
Yeah.
You start laughing because you've been, you know, you just think of like all the days that were 19 degrees that you were out on some river.
Yes.
And this was it, you know, the steelhead and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, all that frozen snot and beard stuff and cold, and your toes being so cold you swear that you'd never get them thawed out again, but your buddies won't stop fishing, so you got to stay.
Yeah. And they're thinking the same thing probably.
Right? And getting skunked, and here you are across the street in a little creek, and it's right there, you know.
That's amazing.
That's the deal.
Amazing. Well, did you want to play a tune for us?
I
don't know if
can do that.
Bill, would that work? You think we can make them up?
Here, I'll trade you, Bill. If I could borrow the guitar. And I'm sure you need to edit this, because this is just a rambling, chaotic
It's great.
mess.
It's great.
Go to work every morning, wait for the day to end. Alarm clock rings and I do it all again, and I don't think about you. I don't think about you. And I don't think about you. Days are getting longer, nights are getting hot. Kids light off the firecrackers, look out for the cops, and I don't think about you. I don't think about you, and I don't think about you. I used to know this town like the back of my hand. You should see it now. Oh, they've even changed that, and I don't think about you. I don't think about you. I don't think about you. La 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 la. There's coffee in the kitchen, there's clothes in the dryer. I can see her in there breathing. The sunrise is on fire. Oh, the sunrise is on fire. And I don't think about, don't think about you. And I won't think about you. If I needed you, would you come to me? Would you come to me for to ease my pain?
That was awesome, dude. That was so good. So good. Okay.
One more. Can I do one more?
Yes,
and then
please.
you can choose.
Please. Do you mind if I...
No.
Okay.
So that's a song I wrote called "I Don't Think About You,"
That's
and my
so freaking good.
and my ex-wife calls it "Who the hell aren't you thinking about?" All right. This one's gonna be a little louder, so I don't know if wait for you to like it. That's a cool little unit you got there. She left on a Friday without looking in her eye. Threw her bag in the pickup, didn't even say why. Stopped by the diner, threw her apron on the ground, said adios Chicago. She let down in a 68 Ford. Oh my Lord. 3 on a tree, it ain't 4 on the floor. It ain't fast, sure ain't slow. It's got a one-tail light. Ham radio, sing a lonesome song with the windows down. Cost her $2,000 of tips and tires. Now it's gas station coffee and birds on a wire. He drank up all her love. She paid the bill in tears. Now it's the hum of the highway. It's the grind of the gears in a 68 Ford. Oh my Lord. 30 on the tree, it ain't 4 on the floor. It ain't fast, sure ain't slow. It's got one tail light. AM radio, singing lonesome song. With windows down. It's trading in the gray sky for the desert's morning light. Never felt so free, never felt so right. There's ghosts on the highway, way back where she's from. You can hear them singing, run baby, run baby, run baby, run. Sorry. In a 68 Ford, oh my Lord. On a tree, it ain't 4 on the floor. It ain't fast, sure ain't slow. It's got a one tail light. AM radio, singing lonesome song. With the windows down. With the windows down.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much. Now, you played a song earlier called I Don't Think About You. Yeah. And
That's not on any record.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's like a newer-ish.
World premiere.
No, I've been playing it out. It's been like I wrote it like right after we made that record, and it never. I haven't made a new one, so it's going to be on the next whenever the next one comes.
can you put out a single, bro?
Sure. Well, you got it. So
Yeah.
live recording of it.
Yeah, so if you guys want to hear it, we're here with Drew Nelson, a West Michigan artist who fly fishes and also is a musician. And we're so excited to have one of his songs, Don't Think About You, and it's actually one of my new favorite songs, so I'm super excited that I have it, and I'll share it with you guys, not this Sunday, but the next Sunday on the Remote No Pressure podcast. Thank you so much, Drew, for hanging out with us, man. Thank you so
Let's
much.
play some Greg Brown songs.
All right.
Well, thank you, Drew, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the Remote No Pressure podcast. This series has got me so hyped up. Musicians on the fly, so stay tuned for next week. We have another awesome musician who's going to be here out of Chicago, a blues player. Very excited about him. A couple things coming up. Don't forget, follow us on all of our socials, obviously, like we always tell you to. Also, sign up for our mailing list. There's things that we send out on our mailing list, discounts and things like that are important to our subscribers. So be sure to check that out. Also, Monday, April the 8th, we're going to be at Trout Unlimited in Pittsburgh. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, we'd love to hang out with you Monday night at their TU meeting and be talking about the podcast and just meeting new people. We're so grateful for you every week, and thank you so much for all that you do. And until next time, go fishing.
Days are getting longer, nights are getting hot. Kids light off the firecrackers. Look out for the cops, and I don't think about you. I don't think about you.